like you're ahead of schedule, or where in terms of where you want to be, or you've been pleasantly surprised?
Well, I think we have a lot of work to do. There's certain things that we're doing pretty good, but there's other things we've got to get better at. We meet as a staff every morning, and I ask my video coordinator to, clip things I think we need to shore up, clean up. Anytime you have a freshman on the floor, you're vulnerable. Any team in America, if you're playing freshman, you are vulnerable. If you've got Galen Robertson, Corey Davis, Dejon Giroux, Fabian White, Bryson Gresham on the floor, not a lot of breakdowns with that team because they would have been all veterans. But if you put Jamal Shedd out there, or Jaywan Roberts, or Tremont Mark, they're going to break down. They're going to make mistakes because they're just not experienced enough. It'd be like you coming out of college being the sports editor for the New York Times. You're not ready for that. These guys aren't ready for this, but they have to make the mistakes. And but you're always in teaching mode. I wrote 3 things down today at our coaches meeting, and I got clips from the first 3 games, kind of a montage where we show here's where we're making our biggest mistakes and where we have to clean up. So I never look at our defense and say, we're really good defensively. I always look at it and say, a lot of times based on where you are, either encouraging something or discouraging something. So we're not discouraging certain things enough. Without going into too much detail, but I'll just say we're evolving. We can get a lot better, and I think we will.
All right. Hey, Coach, we'll go to Chris Gardner next. Chris, go ahead with your question for Coach.
Coach, what's the status of Caleb Mills? Is there a chance he won't play this Saturday?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he'll play or not. We didn't practice yesterday. I talked to John this morning, John Houston, our trainer, and when you sprain your ankle and you come back, you're always a little vulnerable, and that's a crapshoot with those ankles. Every time he jumps and lands, you kind of hope it's a clean landing. But the ankle he hurt the other day was actually his other ankle. So now he's got 2 ankle sprains. But when we were walking to the locker room, Texas Tech and Houston, we were kind of going down the same hallway. And I had my head down, but when I looked up, first person of all the mass of humanity, the one person I saw was Caleb. And he was really ginger. And I grabbed him and asked him, which ankle hurts more? The original one or this one? He said this one. I said, well, you're not playing the second half. Just go and get treatment, and we'll deal with this next week. So, but I don't know whether he'll play or not. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll see what he can do at practice today. If not, we'll put him on the Ultra G and just have him work. May put him in the pool. But if he can play, he play. If not, he won't. Just simple as that.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. We'll go to Andy Yanez with the Cougar, please. Andy, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Coach. I was just going to ask about Justin Gorham and what you've seen from him defensively. He's coming off the game against Texas Tech where he drew a few charges. He crashed the glass a couple of times. Really, what do you see from him in that starting role? And, what do you expect for him to grow as the season progresses?
Well, everybody on our team has a role, and I meet with them individually, and I explain to them, this is what, I expect you to do. But, kids have to understand, the first thing they have to answer when they come here and they get settled is how important winning is to you. Or if some kid says, well, I'd rather play this role, then that tells me he doesn't want to win. You know, because he may not, his skill set may not allow him to do that role. But, you know, when I meet with a kid, you know, we look at everything from a composite standpoint, big picture. Everybody has to do something, you know. When you become a parent, and you have multiple children, they're all different. You know, none of them's the same. So you just sit back and let their personalities flourish. They become who they are. It's a great thing. But basketball teams are similar. They're all different. They all have different skill sets. But to become a good team, everybody has to be all conference in their role. I thought Justin was all conference player Sunday in his role. And he knows what his role is. You know, Bryson does. You know, it's early in the season, but you'll see Reggie Chaney play a lot more. I think he's been really playing good in practice. He's going to start playing good in games. Texas Tech was not a big man game because they play mostly guards. And, you know, we're playing more and more with 4 guards. And it doesn't matter to me who's on the floor for the other team. You know, if you're big, that doesn't mean we have to be big. You know, with the way we play and the way our guards rebound, our 2 lead rebounders. Well, you know, there's a method to our madness. You know, if you go all the way back to Damian Dotson. Damian Dotson led us in rebounding. Armani Brooks led us in rebounding. Nate Hinton led us in rebounding. And either Dejan or Quentin will, one of those 2 guys will probably lead us in rebounding this year. But, you know, we ask our bigs to do certain things. We ask our wings to do certain things. And, but Justin's a tough kid, you know, and he wants to win. So when winning is important to you, that means that you're selfless. Being selfless doesn't mean you think less of yourself. You just think of yourself less.
All right. We'll go to Greg Bailey with Channel 13. Greg, go ahead, please, sir.
Hey, Kelvin, I apologize, man. I had a little trouble getting on if you kind of touched on this, but are you going to push a team that's riding success harder? Do you push them harder when you're struggling, or does your approach never change in practice?
Never changes.
And is that constant part of the reason that you're successful, do you feel like?
Well, we're successful because we have good players. You know, it starts there. You know, we recruit well, and we develop, and we have a plan. We have for 30-some years, so I don't think that's really. Players don't take on their coach's personality in games. They take on their coach's personalities in practice. You know, the way we practice. You know, if you go back and talk to Kellen or Hollis, Quantas on our staff now, and ask them what the difference in our practices were when they played versus today, they'll say it's the same. So, you know, I've had more than one team that was a 1 seed. We've had more than one team that was top 10 in the nation. We've been top 10 since we've been here. It's really irrelevant. It's the great thing about being top 10 in the nation, what really that means is great for our fans and it's great for recruiting. That's about it. You know, it doesn't change what I'm going to do in practice today. Doesn't mean we're not going to work on rebounding. Doesn't mean we're not going to make them get in the stance and guard somebody. Doesn't mean they're not going to be disciplined in certain areas. You know, every coach has his way of doing things. There's no right way or wrong way in coaching. It's just the way you do it. If you believe in it, do it. If that's your belief, then be constant, be consistent, and have confidence. And that's it. You know, if you have good players, you can win. But you can do all that stuff. If you don't have good players, you're not going to win.
If I could follow up just real quick on Coach, I thought he showed kind of a unique ability for a young player to understand when it's time for the mid-range game, when it's time to shoot it. What do you think about that part of his game at a young age?
Yeah, all of our guards, they complement each other. There's and that's something that we, when you're recruiting, you just don't run down to the mall and hand out scholarships, obviously. And, when we look at kids, there's a lot of kids that are really talented that just don't fit us. And there's, we may offer a kid, and then we go and evaluate him, and then you say, well, a kid chose another school. Well, most of the times is we chose not to follow up. Because maybe the more we watched, the more we realized, and he's a good player somewhere else. Nothing against that. But, to play here, you've got to be a little bit different. Number one, you got to be coachable. You got to allow yourself to be coached hard, because we're going to coach our kids hard, and that's not for everybody. But the thing I like about Tremont, when I saw him as a sophomore, he had me at hello. I knew he was going to be good. I went over and watched him play at Dickinson when he was in the 10th grade. I don't think I offered him then, but I knew I was. And then that summer in AAU, and I watched him, really liked him. And then his junior year in April, whenever we were allowed to go out, I took my entire staff. It was me, Kelvin, Quantis, and Alvin. Very rarely do all four of us go. It's usually me and whoever the point person is. But I said, we're going to go over there. And so we had Tremont and his mother and father and his high school coach. And we sat in the room, and I made sure that kid understood how important he was to our program. And I wanted to coach him. And he committed the next week. And then later, I think it was in June, might have been May, he got invited to the NBA Top 100 camp, which is the top 100 players in the country, not rising seniors, just regardless of class. And he led the entire event in assist. He averaged 5.5 assists. That was in Charlottesville, Virginia, where Virginia plays in that building. He's got a chance to be really, really good. You're just seeing glimpses now. There's a lot of things he does really well. But right now, it's like the Sweet 16 team, we brought Dejan and Nate off the bench. Or the other day, we brought Caleb and Tremont off the bench. You can tell a lot about your team by who you bring off the bench. That's you got to start in 5, and Caleb and Tremont's off your bench. That means you've got to start in 7. Tremont's greatest strength is he doesn't really have any weaknesses. He does everything pretty good, but I think some of the things he does pretty good has a chance to move up another level. But he's going to be a good player. He's just a freshman, and he made some mistakes the other day that are easily correctable. We watch a lot of film. We watch a lot of edits. I may have, like the other night on the bus, I may say, put this on my iPad and have so-and-so come sit with me on the bus, and I'll sit there and show him on the iPad, and then I'll take it and send it to his phone so he can take his phone and watch it. And it's never more than 2 or 3 edits. You start giving them 5 or 6, they're not going to watch them. But they'll watch 2 or 3. But Tremont's got to learn to play in space a little bit better. He's got to learn to space himself. Spacing is a selfless act, like rim running. That's selfless. The more selfless you can get your team to be, the better your team can be. And he's learning to do that. These kids come out of high school, they were the team. They didn't have to do many selfless things. That was everybody else's job. So my job is to get them to go from being the team to being a great teammate. That's not always easy. But that's why you recruit character kids. Tremont's a very high character kid.
Hey, Greg, we'll go to James Mueller with the Cougar. James, go ahead, please, sir.
Yeah, so I know it's early in the season, but what have you seen from Marcus Saucer over the first 3 games compared to where he was last year as a freshman?
Not Saucer, Sasser.
My bad.
Sorry. Just confidence. Their roles change as they go along. Marcus doesn't have the same role today that he had when he got here last year. He came off the bench, and early in the season, your coach is still trying to find his team. That's why you don't ever make conclusions in November. It's okay to make an observation, but don't ever draw a conclusion. This team's not very good. They lost today. Well, it's November. How do you know? You know, Syracuse lost 15 games the other year and went to the Final Four. But Marcus is he has a quiet confidence about him. Doesn't say a lot. You know, he's not very emotional, but he plays with good emotion. I want our kids to play with great emotion, but I don't want them to be emotional. And Marcus probably embodies that more than anybody. Tremont's like that too. Well, we have a lot of guys like Quentin's like that. But Marcus knows that he has freedom to go play. When he's open, I want him to shoot it because I trust him. I think he's a good shooter. But we have a lot of guys that are playing with confidence, but they get their confidence through preparation. The harder you practice, the more you push yourself, the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more you allow yourself to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's what practice is all about. You know, we don't practice plays. We practice pushing ourselves to the point where it hurts. And then you get to the next level. It hurts even more. Can I get to the next level? Just how far can I push you to push yourself? And Marcus was not very good at that when he got here. You know, at my grandmother's house, she had a string on a light bulb in one of the bedrooms. And if you wanted to cut the light out, you had to pull that string. That's what Marcus reminded me of. He cut the light. He pulled that string real quick when he was a freshman. But now he's one of our best practice players. But that's growth, and that's a process. And that's all a career is about, a season's about, is the process. And that's why you focus on your process. The other stuff really doesn't matter.
All right. We'll go to Chris Gardner again with the Houston Round Ball Review. Chris, go ahead, please.
Coach, what does this South Carolina team do that you're going to prepare for differently, if anything?
Differently from what?
I mean, this Frank Martin team, a typical Frank Martin team?
You mean differently from when we played them last or Texas Tech?
From last year, South Carolina last year.
Okay. Well, they have most of their team back. That's why they picked to finish so high in their league. They're big. You know, their center's about 6'8", 260. The guy that backs him up, Levesque, Frank is their center. Their backup guy is Levesque. He's about 6'11", 250. They've got a stretch four. They got good guards. They've got good size. When we played them last year, you know, our kids just executed well. We had a good plan going in, and we played really good. South Carolina didn't play as good as they're capable of playing. I think they were still, well, both of us, we were still trying to find ourselves. I think we had lost to, I can't remember exactly when that was. I think we had just lost to Oklahoma State, maybe. Somebody, I can't remember. We lost to somebody. And our kids had a great week of preparation. And we went and really played well on the road. But, I've watched a little bit of South Carolina tape, but not a lot. You know, we don't play them to Saturday, and I tend to, early in the week when we have a week like this, I tend to focus more on us than them. But my assistant that has a scout, you know, just put some personnel clips on. I just watched their personnel. I really haven't watched their team.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah.
Okay.